the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Merry Christmas from Drew and the entire Relevant Radio family. Thanks for spending the season with us.
8 a.m. Santa's coming to town. All right, well, it is great to celebrate with you. I hope you are preparing for the birth of Christ and helping you get into the mood, giving you a little background on the history behind some of these classic Christmas songs. And I'm doing it with an expert. Ace Collins joins me. You can learn more about him at his website, acecollins.com. He was interviewed by Time Magazine earlier today. We only have a few moments of it. I do want to talk to you before we get into my favorite. And I know Silent Night's celebrating 200 years. Yeah, I look at all the new Christmas music that comes out, and I'm thinking these classics seem to stand the test of time. And I wonder how many new pieces of music are written. Everybody wants to write a classic Christmas song that will last for a generation or more. What is it about the new music? I mean, are there some that seem to be piercing that crowd, joining the ranks of these classics?
I think there are two that will last that I see right now that have been written in the last generation. Mary, Did You Know by Mark Lowry is such an incredible different viewpoint, and it is just being played everywhere. The other one, Amy Grant's done it, Kathy Mattea's done it, others, Grown Up Christmas List, to me, is something that will last forever as well. So I think those two are probably, and you only get one or two a generation. So if those two last, it'll be remarkable because except during World War II, you had that one song every 4 or 5 years that managed to hang on and still be important. Let's go back to when a man named Joseph Moore, a 21-year-old priest, was frantic because the organ wouldn't work in his church, and this was the first New Year's Eve Mass he had ever been in charge of, and he went running over to a friend, Franz Gruber's house, and I'm going to tell you the quick version here, and Gruber said, well, I'll play the guitar for it. He said, the music won't work for that. This is a whole music service. And that's when Franz Gruber said, well, didn't you write a poem 3 years ago? The amazing thing about it is Moore went back and found the poem, and they put music to it. And that night, Silent Night, Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht, in its language, in Obendorf, Austria, saved Christmas at that little Catholic church. 30 years later, this man, Moore, who has forgotten about a song almost, is walking down a street in Cologne, Germany, and here's his song that saved Christmas 30 years before being sung in a cathedral in Cologne, Germany. And he wondered what happened. Well, he taught the song to the guy who came by to fix the organ that was broken, and that guy became the Johnny Appleseed of Silent Night and took it everywhere. And little did this little town priest realize that his song was being sung around the globe and would go on to be not the most selling song of all time. That's White Christmas. But the most recorded and most sung Christmas song of all time is Silent Night. And by the way, this is fascinating. What was the name of the church in Austria where he first performed Silent Night?
I don't know. What was
St. Nicholas.
Oh, my gosh.
St. Nicholas.
How providential. I love that.
Oh, boy.
And here's a classic. A lot of people have done Silent Night. Bing Crosby's famous for it, but I know you said to me that Barbra Streisand is perhaps one of the most beautiful and most popular of all time. Here's Barbra Streisand singing one of my favorites, Silent Night.
All is calm, all is bright around yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
That is such a beautiful song. I love that. And Ace, you were saying that that's the most popular, even more so than Bing Crosby, huh?
Yes. In the last 20 years, that's become the most popular version of Silent Night. Other song we got to mention, at least in brief, and it's got 4 great stories behind it. I'll try to hit on a couple of them. Written almost 200 years ago in France. It was O Holy Night. A man wrote it as a favor to a parish priest. He wrote a poem, thought it was so good, it wanted to have it set to music. He prevailed upon a friend of his to write the music for it. took France by storm and was within 5 years was the most popular Christmas song in France. And then, ironically enough, the Catholic hierarchy in France kicked the song out of the church for being too secular.
Wow.
Why? Because the guy who had written the music was Jewish. And they didn't think they ought to be singing a guy who had written the song music for it as Jewish in the church. The French people continued to sing it. It was brought to America not as a Christmas song, but as by the abolitionists as an anti-slavery song.
Wow.
Because in the third verse it says, "Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease."
Wow.
It became a Christmas song in the United States after the Civil War. And in 1906, a man named Fessenden in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, has been working with an invention that Marconi, who was his former employee, said was impossible.
Wow.
And that was a transmitter that would transmit the human voice wirelessly. And on Christmas Eve, 1906, people were listening for dots and dashes of Morse code on ships at sea, in newsrooms and weather bureaus, and suddenly they heard this man's voice singing reading the second chapter of Luke. Then he picked up his violin, and the very first song ever played on the radio on that Christmas Eve, and it's been the way we've been introduced to Christmas music ever since, was "O Holy Night."
Here's "O Holy Night."
O holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices for young.
That, of course, is Josh Groban, and what a gift he has been given. Listen to that voice, huh? One of my favorites. Ace, thank you for being here. I'm really grateful for your time, for your insight. Ace Collins, of course, his book, The Most Wonderful Time of the Year, A Countdown to Christmas, is one of 94 that he's written. And check him out, acecollins.com.